Hello and welcome back to 4000 and Counting. I'm Watty, this is Mark, and we are back for another YouTube video. And today we are going to be talking about fans throwing stuff onto the ice. Now, we had clipboard gate the weekend at Sheffield versus Belfast in the Elite League. The fan has been suspended for the remainder of the season. Now, I don't know if you've seen the video or not. If not, we will perhaps we'll stick the video in here and you'll be able to watch it for yourself. Do that, watch it now, and then listen to the rest of the conversation. It's going to make sense. So Valorant gets tossed on a 5+ game for an elbow to the head. Let's start with that, Mark. What are you calling there? Are you calling a elbow to the head, or are you calling it a 2 or 5? What's your kind of assessment?
No, that's an elbow to the head. I would have given that 5, man. I don't know. For
So
me,
the ref
that
got
was
it
a
right.
pretty sick. It was a pretty sick play.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate the play either. Hope Cooper's okay. It's weird that Valleys did that. He's obviously been brought in to score goals, not to elbow players
Yeah,
on the head. And he could end up, if Department of Player Safety get their hands on this clip, which they will, and they'll do the review, I imagine he's going to get a couple of games, although they have been a lot more lenient than EIHL. Suspensions over the course of the 22-23 season. We saw some crazy numbers in the EIHL, but the Elite League's kind of been 1 game, 2 games. It's not really been too much. What do you think he'll get in terms of games?
for that, I think. Has he got any history? I don't
Oh,
think he has,
actually,
has
let me
he?
have a look. Did he play on Sunday? I don't know if he featured against Guildford. Maybe he featured against Guildford on Sunday. Um, I guess that'll tell us. But I don't know how quickly the Department of Player Safety would be up and running and telling them. But
Yeah,
let's player stats.
it's not
Is
the
his
guy you
name?
want missing either, is it? Because he's a quality player, like you say. He's been solid in the Elite League, so
Okay,
having a guy
so
like that suspended is pretty tough right now.
okay, there we go. We should have probably checked this before we came on, but no, he did play on Sunday. So obviously just a 5+ game. No games from Department of Player Safety. Like you say, if he's got no previous, I would have maybe gave him 1 additional game, 2
Yeah,
at the very tops. And the Elite League haven't decided to do that. I'm equally happy. Like I'm not like pissed off about it or anything. I don't think it was horrific, but it was bad enough that it warranted an elbowing call, and
yeah.
Belfast were rewarded a power play. So that incident then sparked the next incident. Well, it's incident. I can't even speak. Incident that's blowing up Twitter, and they've christened it Clipboard Gate. Now the fan has approached the back of Adam Keefe's bench, and after the Varaland hit, I can only assume there's a coming together which you don't see on camera, because as the camera gets there, it's got both linesmen restraining Varaland as they kind of try to get him away to the penalty box at centre ice, probably this side of the face-off circle at centre ice. And Valley's obviously getting into it with whoever's on the Belfast bench, so there's a bit of a fuck you match going on whilst he's been held back by the officials. Now, as you can see this happening, the next thing you see is this clipboard get launched onto the ice, and I mean the throw was brilliant. It was a fucking good throw. Like it is a cannon of a throw. It had that perfect like it was good velocity. Now, two issues. Obviously, fan throwing it is a major issue. Secondary to that, the linesman didn't have a helmet on. He was involved in the scrum. I can only imagine that as he's in the scrum and he's trying to break the players up, his helmet's been knocked off, right? So we want to make sure that our officials and our players are as safe as possible. Now that means no throwing shit from the stands. We had it last year with Whitley Bay, and this was before the YouTube time, and we were talking about it on the podcast, and we talked about something needing to happen. I believe that girl got suspended for the rest of the season. Now Steelers have come out, and I'll read the statement that they put out. I think it was their own website actually. So it was on their own website. The Steelers are fully aware of the incident that took place inside the arena last night during the third period. The club today has spoken with the family of a young man involved and advised that we have no alternative but to suspend him from all further games this season. Whilst emotions run high at games and tempers flare, at no point can an object be thrown onto the ice that could harm a player or official. Steelers apologised immediately after the game to the match night officials and to the Belfast Giants, whilst also explaining the individual circumstances around the person involved. The young man's family has accepted the club's decision and also asked the Steelers to pass on their apologies to all concerned. Now, first of all, bravo to the Steelers for just jumping on it straight away, getting on it. A ban to the end of the season. We're going to get into the logistics and everything of it. But it looks like the fan, it doesn't look like it is. The fan that threw the object onto the ice is autistic. Now, this is where it's polarized opinions across like the hockey networks. And I mean, having autism doesn't allow, in my book, it doesn't give you the right to throw anything onto the ice. Absolutely not. Now, where I sit playing devil's advocate on that is autism is a spectrum, right? And some people have really mild autism, some people have massively severe autism, and everywhere in between. Now, there's an autistic lad that trains in my gym, 30 years old, comes to the gym on his own. He's just recently like moved out on his own. You can tell he's autistic. You can tell he's got learning difficulties when you speak to him, like 1,000%. Like, it is not in doubt. You could tell. And he goes to the football, yeah. Football's his thing. He always asks about the hockey. He always like, "How's hockey, mate?" He loves it, right? But like, football's his game. That guy would never fucking chuck a clipboard at a football player. Like, he wouldn't. Like, he would be like annoyed with himself if he was to find himself in that situation. But equally, I can tell that his brain works differently to mine. I can tell when I'm having a conversation with him, and that's just one level of autism. There's so many levels to it that I don't know. It doesn't excuse it. It does maybe soften the blow a little bit. The thing that I thought was fucking stupid about the whole thing is he almost hit Valorant. Like, yeah. Valorant's head wasn't. Valorant's arms were by the linesman. His head was poking through the back when he's obviously shouting at the officials. So if it was actually gonna hit anybody like in the face, it was gonna hit Valley in the face.
Yeah.
It was gonna hit his own player in the face. I get it. He's got heated, but it's a tough one. It is a really tough one. And I think the key that should go into it here should be how we educate on it. Now, I don't know if that fan goes to the games alone. And I know he's not the first person to have thrown anything on the ice. And hopefully he will be the last, because we've got to be seen to be doing something, and we have got to be doing something. I mean, they kind of excused it a little bit, the Steelers, by only banning him till the end of the season. I mean, if this was December and they banned him till the end of the season, I think I'll be more okay with it than you're banning him for the end of the season. There's 2 home games left, 3 home games left. It's not really a ban. It wouldn't deter me from doing something like that again. Would it you? If that was, I mean, I don't think, I'm not saying he will do it again. I don't think he will do that again.
No,
but the punishment wise, you know, wise, it's not really a punishment.
Till the end of the season, I think, given the knowledge now that's obviously behind it with the gentleman concerned, I think now taking into account his level of autism, I think, you know, it's right. He should be punished for it, and he has been there. And I think going forwards, we need to learn from this. And, you know, when you've got someone, you know, no one should be thrown anything. No, not one spectator, nothing. No one should be thrown anything, end of. And if that means that with people with slight difficulties and stuff, that they need someone by them at a game to help if they get into like a pressure, anxiety.
Like a panic or whatever.
Do you know what I mean? And this could have come down to something that, you know, has triggered the guy and he's reacting in a certain way. If he had someone with him that could like put an arm around him or whatever you have to do in that circumstance to prevent this, then you know, that's the way going forwards that we need to consider, because you should be able to go to that arena and be able to control your emotions. I know you can say a few things, but to ultimately try and throw something at someone to cause harm, you know, there's an intention when you throw something. you don't just chuck it on the ice.
No.
That's aimed at someone. So you
Yeah,
need
it's
to.
not like the old octopus in the NHL. Like it's you're not chucking any other. You're not chucking like I don't know a hat on after a goal. You're launching a clipboard. Now, if that hits the official who doesn't have a helmet on in the eye, or it hits somebody and there is an injury, or we don't really do anything about this, we give it a little 3-game ban into the end of the year, and then next year someone decides to throw something bigger, heavier, can travel at a higher speed, can cause injury. It's difficult. I hope that the club, instead of just banning him, bring him in and fucking talk to him and tell him like why and how dangerous it could have been, and try and see it from another perspective. Like for him, it might be that his learning difficulties aren't horrific and he can fully understand what's going on, and then just maybe it's a bit of communication and a bit of education as opposed to going fucking mental and completely banning him for like a season or two. What I want to know is if there had been an injury, then what? Who's liable? Is it the arena? Is it the match night stewards? Because you can see from where there's 2 videos, I've sent them both to you. You can see on the second video him walking back up the stands. So walking up the steps. So he's walked down the steps and got to the back of the bench. Why did a steward or someone on the night just not stop him? That you've got to ask that. So you've got to ask who's going to be liable. Would it have been the Steelers? Would it have been the rink? What's like the other side of it, like the legality side of it? Because sure as shit, if I'm a player and someone throws something, imagine, God forbid, we end up with like a Ross Bauer situation. If that had hit Valley in the eye or the lino in the eye, and all of a sudden he's blinded in one eye, like who's liable for that?
I think it's got to be the person that's done it. This just breaking the law, full stop, isn't it?
And this is the thing. So I had an interesting conversation. Let me get the guy's name, because I was talking to him on one of our social media platforms today, and he said the important thing that he wants to see come out of this is Gaz, by the way. Gaz is on Instagram. Basically, he's a father of a kid that has Down syndrome. So he said this needs to be more about education, about people with special needs. And we were talking back and forth. I hope he doesn't mind me reading a bit of this out. He said it's a tough one, but we must take it in this context and circumstance that is unlikely, like the Whitley Bay incident last year. I'm all for laying down the law, but we're an inclusive sport. We should be proud that we can open our doors to anyone and everyone, as well as teams going above and beyond for communities such as the disabled. Whilst opinions may be split amongst your followers, I do feel this is a subject that needs carefully explained with facts and not guesswork to paint the correct picture. Keep up the good work, gents. And I was like, playing devil's advocate. Let's say player A has autism, and I mean, I've played with lads that have had it. I've most certainly coached in my camps loads of kids that had autism, so they're probably all adults by now. Do you know what I mean? They were like 10s and 12s and 14s then. They again had it on different levels. But I would say, let's say player A has the same kind of red mist moment as this fan has there, and chucks his stick into the crowd and it hits a fan. So it's just roles reversed. It's roles reversed. Yeah. Like, we know as players, we can't throw shit into the crowd. Crowd knows as fans, you can't throw shit onto the ice. So what would the scenario be if that was to happen and it was an autistic player that done it? Do they get a little bit more of a lenient thing? I bet they don't. I bet they don't play a hockey game again that year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're probably looking at criminal charges.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be. This is why we need a players' association. So shit like this stops happening. Because on a Monday morning, that goes to the players' association. Something goes to the lawyer, and by Wednesday, that's on the league table saying that, you know, if this happens again, people, I wouldn't be surprised. Someone gets injured, someone's going to get sued. Someone's going to get sued. Like, let's say you're the Cardiff Devils and you're away in Sheffield, and that happens, to, I don't know, Joey Martin, and Joey Martin gets injured. if I'm the Devil's ownership, I'm fucking suing everybody. So then there needs to be maybe some more like vocal between the clubs, put it out there a little bit more. No different, right? When you hear stuff like keep your eye on the puck at all times.
Yeah.
Please don't use flash photography. Every now and again, remember, don't throw stuff on the ice. It might be something as simple as that. So many new fans, they have some pints. This is obviously not this circumstance, but we've seen on Twitter this year that some fans have been having some pints, and then there's been bits and pieces going on at games. It's not been as friendly as it usually is. I mean, the Elite League Twitter fans have been a joke this year. They've been all over each other. I mean, every week.
Yeah.
Every week it's also negative, and it's quite sad, really. But yeah, so like basically me and Gaz went back and forth, and he's like, this is where we've got to get into the whole social media bandwagon discussion. As society, we jump to conclusion without the facts. In your example, if I was in charge of rulings, I'd be making a statement about how to educate my league's fan base on the situation and disability involved and investigate the reaction that led to the stick being thrown. If a player had an absolute meltdown and lost all sense of where they are, that would be completely different to an aggressive stick toss towards opposing fans, for example, where they have skated off in full control of themselves. He's like, and as he goes on, goes on to mention obviously about having a kid with Downs and stuff. It's an interesting take, and I think he's right. There needs to be like masses of education, and each individual situation is obviously going to have a different outcome.
Yeah,
it's tough. Everything's different. Every level of disability is not the same, and I really don't know what the right and wrong thing to do here is.
Honestly, man, I'll go back to what I said, and I mean it with the utmost respect. We need an understanding that when you go into that arena, when you step foot into an arena, that everything will be controlled. You can lose your emotion, but if you've got instabilities, if there's disabilities which trigger certain reactions and stuff, then you need something to control that. It shouldn't be down to anything else. It's down to you when you go into that arena, and that understanding that you are under control and that you're not going to impact someone else's life or cause harm to anyone. It's simple as. And I sympathize completely with the situation here with someone with autism that's lost it. He needed someone there, but we need to learn from that going forwards, that you're on the understanding when you buy a ticket, when you enter, you have to be under control. Whether that's if someone has to accompany you or whatever, ultimately that is it. That's all I think that's a
great place to wrap this video up. Please let us know your comments in the section below, because obviously this one has been like polarizing in opinions. It's been splitting everybody up, but it doesn't need to be like that. We can learn from it, we can educate from it, and we can move on from it. Hopefully no one gives the lad too much shit. He's had a bit of a blip, but he'll learn from it hopefully and move on. But yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment, get involved, help us with these algorithms. Obviously hockey in the UK is not the most popular, so you guys that are watching, please make sure you're subscribed. Please make sure you like the videos. It helps bump us up. Who knows, maybe we'll start bringing some new fans into hockey, because that'd be good. Yeah. More new fans. Right, for now, peace.